Derek Overstreet, founder of the New Millennium Group. We're a financial planning firm. We have advisors standing by right now to take your call. 888-999-6370. The reason you're going to want to call is we're going to help you retire 3 to 5 years before you thought possible. The way we do this is by putting together a step-by-step plan. So if you're one of those people listening and you'd like a plan in writing, give us a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or go to utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Some of the most meaningful jewelry you own isn't new. It's inherited. A ring from a grandmother, a necklace full of memories, but no longer your style. Duke's Jewelers reimagines family heirlooms into custom pieces you'll actually wear and love. Working one-on-one, Duke's designers honor the original story while creating something fresh and modern. Don't let meaningful jewelry sit unused. Let it live on beautifully. Visit Duke's Jewelers in Springville or online at dukesjewelers.com, where old stories become new treasures.
This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Andy Bailey writes about the NBA for Bleacher Report, one of our favorite guests that we have on to talk about the association. Andy, how you doing, man?
I am doing pretty well. I appreciate you having me.
All right, so Andy, when you I don't think we've had a chance to chat about the NBA coming down on the Utah Jazz. Is it in regards to how the Jazz did it, as opposed to the fact that the Jazz are tanking and a lot of other teams are tanking?
At this point, I honestly don't know how you answer that question, because how they did it has now been repeated multiple times by several different teams. There was even a couple instances of it happening before the Jazz did it. I don't remember who exactly posted it, but people had screenshots or whatever of rotations that other teams had done before the $500,000 fine. Maybe they were just the unlucky name that Adam Silver drew out of a hat to say, we need to make an example of somebody. And they did, obviously, but it wasn't a striking enough example, because all of these teams are continuing to act in their best interest, which I have said from the outset, it's obvious why these teams are doing it. It is in their best interest, and frankly, I can't fault them for doing so. And some years are going to have more tanking than others. It's been the case for decades in the NBA. So the whole thing just kind of stunk to me.
Yeah.
It never made a lot of sense, and it makes less sense now than it did weeks or months ago, whenever it happened.
Are there any of the proposed plans from Adam Silver that you look at like, okay, I can get along with that?
No. Another thing that I assume that the league somebody probably leaked that to Shams to gauge some reaction, and I think it was pretty poor throughout. And I'm with the masses on this one. I didn't love any of those ideas. I think doubling down on flattening the lottery odds is almost crazy to me. I understood the idea of flattening the odds before they did this last one, and I was actually kind of encouraged by it. I thought that could help. It's clearly had the opposite effect of what they intended. I think most people would agree that there was at least less discussion of this under the old lottery odds. And I think if you expand the pool of teams that can have a shot at the number one pick, more teams are going to take that shot.
Yeah.
Somebody joked about it right after they leaked those three ideas. Said something like Adam Silver is going to be the first commissioner that has teams tanking out of the playoffs. Because if you're like a 7 or 8 seed and you know you're just going to get rocked in the first round anyway, why even try? Why not enter that race and try to get the top pick? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think they should go back to the way it was immediately before they flattened the lottery odds, and that system was generally fine, I thought.
I don't know how much college ball you've watched. Obviously, we're here in Utah, so we've seen A.J. DeBonsa a bunch. I was at the NCAA tournament in San Diego, so I watched a couple games of Darren Peterson, and obviously the skill set's ridiculous, and I think he's probably at 75% health-wise. Body language was a little interesting, but I don't want to judge based on the 1 or 2 games that I saw from him there. But overall, could this very well be a 2003-like NBA draft? Or is it obviously too soon and too silly to talk about that right now?
I don't, neither too soon nor too silly. This is the reason all these teams are tanking, is this draft has the potential to be a really, really good one. And you mentioned two of the guys at the top that I think have intrigued a lot of teams. It seems like a lot of people are kind of their support for Cam Boozer's candidacy at number one is kind of waning, but he's another guy that's super interesting. Darius Acuff has come on real strong in the last couple of weeks or months. Several guys who could potentially be franchise changers, starting with that top three, I think. And I'm, like you said, I don't pay a ton of attention to college and the draft. I kind of do my cramming for that in the weeks and probably 3 or 4 weeks before the draft. But I like all three of those guys for different reasons. I think I would go with Debonsa, number one, Debonsa. He checks, I think, the most boxes. He doesn't. So for a stats guy like me, last time I checked, he wasn't the leader in some of those categories that I like to look at for draft prospects. And I think Boozer and Peterson were both above him. But I still like him better because I think there's a competitive edge to him. I think the trend of the NBA to have these multi-positional wing/forward guys who can do a little bit of everything favors him. And frankly, there's more about the other two guys that I'd be nervous about than there is with Debonsa. There's the body language stuff that you mentioned with Peterson. I think we have a lot of examples of that not just going away when a player gets to the NBA. And then I think some of the concerns about Boozer are a little overblown, considering who the best player in the world has been for the last 5 or 6 years. I think with skill, you can overcome maybe a slight deficiency in lateral quickness and stuff like that. But it's still a thing that you can at least bring up. And I think there's just less concerns with Debonsa.
Andy Bailey, kind enough to join us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I don't want to put tweets in your mouth, but I believe you tweeted out something about this last night. And I was thinking the same thing watching the Jazz and the Nuggets. Jazz obviously not interested in winning games, but taking and putting a little bit of a scare into Denver. How concerned would you be if you're a Nuggets fan going into postseason?
And that wasn't just last night either.
Yeah.
I think the same thing happened it was even closer the game before in Denver. I would be very concerned as a Nuggets fan about their defense. I think it's a lot more difficult to flip a switch in the playoffs than the Nuggets seem to think it is, even though they've kind of been burdened by this the last couple of years. There's just sort of a general malaise or lackadaisical approach to defense with them a lot. It doesn't happen as often when they're in marquee matchups. So maybe that's what you cling to for the playoffs. You think they're definitely going to be more engaged in the playoffs. And I think that's true. But part of the reason for the regular season, at least to me, is to establish habits and culture and things like that leading into the playoffs. And I think it's kind of hard to go from we care about defense 60% of the time to 100% of the time, just like I said, like at the flip of a switch. So I think there's major concerns. Their offense is fantastic. One thing I looked up this morning when I was just kind of skimming MVP discussion, it doesn't matter who's on the floor with Jokic. They're going to score at a very, very high level. But you got to have at least like an average to above average defense to be real successful in the playoffs, and they just don't have that right now.
We were talking to Danny Ainge on the show yesterday, and I asked him, are there things that, because obviously you anticipate this time of year with the opportunities available to Ace Bailey and Cody Williams, that these guys are going to score because, the other night Cody Williams had 22 attempts. He's not going to get 22 attempts when everybody's healthy and the cavalry comes back next year. So are these guys just scoring because somebody has to score, or are they developing the way that they should throughout the course of the season and taking advantage of those opportunities based on a developed skill set and on the trajectory that they need to be at? Where are you at on, first, let's talk about Ace Bailey. Are you happy with his trajectory at this point in his rookie season? And then let's throw in Cody Williams and get your thoughts on him.
To your first point, I think it's a little bit of both. I think there is, because so many guys are out, people just have to fill the vacuum of production. And a lot of guys have done that. But I also think that some of these players have gotten better over the course of the season. And you don't necessarily have to throw these performances away. I think I was just writing the power rankings this morning and focused on Kyle Filipowski, he's going to have a hard time on the floor if everybody's available next season, but he was awesome for a week, for this past week for the Jazz. So I think you can see glimpses of talent from all these guys, even in this window of the season. There are obvious caveats that you attach to February, March, and April basketball, but still some good things that a lot of these guys have shown. And I think that's true of Cody Williams, a guy who, frankly, I'd kind of counted out earlier this year. His statistical markers for the first couple of years of his career were so bad that it's like his company for career numbers is guys who last 2 or 3 years. And so I figured that might be what happens to Cody Williams too. But he's life here in the last few weeks or month or so. Looks kind of like the 3-and-D player that they thought they were going to get. So that's super interesting. And then Ace Bailey, I think, has gotten better over the course of the season, but pretty much from the start. Like I feel like I can go all the way back to the season. He's looked a little bit better than I expected him to. I thought there was going to be the potential of him to be kind of a ball stopper, a guy who would pound the ball, a guy who wanted to do more on the ball stuff than off the ball stuff. And I think his off ball game is just way further ahead to be. And I think he has, I think he's closer to the star trajectory that people thought he had before his college season than maybe what they thought he had right before the draft.
Every time now teams are playing Oklahoma City, it seems like the coach seems like they're pointing out Shea and the tight whistle that he's getting. Are those complaints warranted? And where do you stand on him and his MVP race?
So I think the complaints are definitely warranted, and it's not necessarily just the foul calls that Shea gets. That's obviously a big part of it, but I think it's when you compare the calls that Shea gets to the stuff that the defense gets away with. In OKC, the way that they're allowed to defend it's just different than every other team in the league. And I think 29 coaching staffs and 29 fan bases see it every time they play. Guys like Caruso and Dort and Cason Wallace are just so physical, so handsy, so grabby. And they get away with a lot of it. And then if you just barely clip SGA on one of those jumpers, he's going to sell it and he's going to get to the line. So I think it's when you look at the totality of the game, it's hard to see that they're not officiated differently than the rest of the league. Now that I don't think there's some grand conspiracy on the part of the NBA or the referees to make life easier for the Thunder. I think this is something that's been true in basketball basically at all levels for a long time. Once you establish yourself as a plus defender or a plus defensive team, you just get a little bit more leeway from the officials. There's lots of examples through NBA history. Tony Allen, Bruce Bowen. There's just a lot of those guys over the course of history, and it kind of applies to the whole team in the Thunder's case. So yeah, I do think that there is something to the complaints. If I was a coach, I'd probably be pulling my hair out in those post-game press conferences after playing OKC, so I don't blame him for complaining. I don't really knock SGA or his MVP candidacy because of it. The way that I look at the MVP race typically is what has actually been produced. And his production is unbelievable. Part of the reason he's so productive is he's able to maximize these rule advantages that he has, but he's working within the rules as they are right now. So if I had a vote, I would be very torn between him and Jokic. All the momentum is with Wembanyama and Doncic right now, and I get it. I think they have pretty solid cases, but to me, they're still a tier below SGA and Jokic. I would sit and stare at their numbers, basic and advanced, for a long time if I had a vote, because I think you could reasonably go with either one of those guys.
So right now, you're kind of 50-50 on both those guys?
At the moment, I might be like 51-49 Jokic.
Okay.
Which is kind of interesting because all season I kind of would check in every couple of months and just kind of do my own homework on the debate and see where I was. And in every checkpoint, I've gone SGA, and I've put it out there publicly. I think some of that general malaise and lackadaisic approach that we talked about with Denver earlier, I do think Jokic deserves some of the blame for that. He takes some of the responsibility. But then I look at the numbers and including the impact stuff, which at least ostensibly takes in his effect on the team's intensity or whatever. And his numbers are just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And I looked at those pretty closely this morning, and I thought, geez, it probably still is Jokic, who's the single most valuable guy. The way that he impacts every aspect of the game, particularly on offense, I just don't think anybody does it to the same degree that he does. I will also say, though, somebody posted a screenshot from the 60s to counter my argument, and they may have some argument of their own, but I think this might be the best 4-player MVP race ever. The numbers of all 4 of these guys are just crazy.
Yeah.
Jokic, SGA, Doncic, and Wemby. And it's not like you could draw your battle lines and go to the camp of any of those guys and be pretty confident in your case. I've never seen anything like it in all the years I've been doing this.
So circling back to the Jazz before we let you go, assuming the Jazz pick somewhere between 5 and 8, throw in your whatever guy in that range there. And I know neither one of us are really knee deep in the draft right now, but assuming that Ace Bailey continues on his trajectory, assuming Walker Kessler's back next year, is this a playoff team? Not just a play-in team, but are they a playoff team next year?
I would hesitate to guarantee playoffs. I think there may be another year or two of development to be done. Play-in is certainly in the mix. And even in the first couple of years of this post-Gobert Mitchell era, there were some numbers that said when Markkanen and Kessler on the floor, this is a pretty good team. So if they can keep those 2 guys upright and you add Triple J to the mix, Ace Bailey takes a step forward, maybe they exceed my expectations. The problem is they're in the Western Conference.
Yeah.
And although the East was better this year, I still think it's tougher to be in the West, and a lot of the best players are in the West. And so to go from the bottom to the top 6 is a pretty significant leap. I do think top 10 is within reach, but a top 6 guaranteed playoff spot, that's a harder prediction. Of course, you could win the play-in and still get in, but I would see them probably in like the 8, 9, 10 range.
All right, so I'm having Lloyd produce a little bit on the side. Hey, Lloyd, do you have a Tony Jones cut? You know Tony, longtime Jazz beat writer, now with The Athletic and based out of Philadelphia. We had him on the air the other day, and he made a bold prediction. And look, we know Tony's he talks a lot on Twitter, and I love him. He's one of my favorite dudes on the planet, but the dude does not shy away from making opinions. But even this one had me a little bit like, ooh, you sure you want to do that, Tony? Lloyd's going to pull it up for you right now, but essentially gave a prediction of what the Jazz are going to look like if, in fact, they get the number 1 overall pick, if they're able to get A.J. DeBonsa, and what this team will look like in building the team with Ace Bailey continuing on his growth, with Lauri Markkanen, with Walker Kessler, and this whole group, and what they could build together if, in fact, that they're able to grab A.J. DeBonsa. And essentially he said that they will win a championship, not just an NBA Finals, not a deep playoff run. They will win an NBA title in 3 years.
Holy cow.
Yeah. I'm going to play it for you so you know I'm not misquoting him. Here is Tony Jones with that.
Listen, you ready for me to get wild on here?
Well, let's go.
I'm going to get
Let's
wild on this show.
Let's do it.
If the Utah Jazz get A.J. DeBonsa, they're winning an NBA championship within 3 years.
There you go.
That is wild.
That's Tony being Tony a little bit, but it's always entertaining. There's no doubt.
Yeah. Very confident, very bold. I don't think I can back him in that prediction. However, somebody brought this up recently, and I hadn't really thought of it since Ainge first showed up for the Jazz. But maybe you have hints of that same blueprint that he had in Boston with Tatum and Brown, two big forwards who do a lot of different stuff, and maybe you have that in Ace Bailey and AJ Debonsa. I don't know how. It was probably 5 or 6 years before Tatum and Brown finally broke through, so it would be the Ainge timeline sped up. But yeah, Tony, that's pretty bold. If you hear this.
That's why we love Tony. Hey, we appreciate it, Andy. Thanks for hanging out with us, man. We'll do it again soon. Appreciate you dialing up on the YouTube channel as well, so everybody can see what's going on. Life treating you good there in Wyoming?
Life's great. We had a very weird, warm winter, so that was nice. Lots of wind, unfortunately, but that kind of comes with the territory in Wyoming.
I made my annual pilgrimage out there in February for a Utah State basketball game, and I've seen some crazy things on I-80, and that was the easiest drive to Laramie in the middle of February that I've ever made. So I don't anticipate that's ever going to happen again.
No, neither would I. It was like we were living in a different climate for a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, thanks, Andy. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Andy Bailey, Bleacher Report, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, good, the bad, the ugly. Coming up next, this is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did she have to fight a dragon?
Nope, she bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.
It's time to saddle up and talk about the winners and the losers. This is the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, here's the good.
It is your good, it is your bad, it is your ugly. Right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, if you're a Gen Xer like me, a little on the older side, but you were a fan of college basketball in the early 90s, you are a fan of the Fab Five. Like, that was the thing that would tick your parents off the most. If you had really super long basketball shorts, if you listened to music that they probably didn't agree with, and you wanted to be Chris Webber out there on the court, yeah, we all did. And that Fab Five, a 5 all-freshman team starting at the University of Michigan, played in a national championship, lost to Duke, I want to say the first year. And then the second year, was it North Carolina that beat them? Never won a national title, but boy, were they fun to watch. The Fab Five consisting of Chris Webber, Jalen Rose, Juwan Howard, Jimmy King, and Ray Jackson. They were estranged for a long time. When it came out that Chris Webber was associated with that booster, the NCAA got involved and slapped his hands, had to stay away from the program for 10 years. They had to vacate a bunch of wins. The Five kind of broke up a little bit, but they will reunite coming up for a alternate telecast. These 5 dudes sitting around watching their alma mater play. It will be on True TV, HBO Max, and look, I love NCAA tournament games. I love the broadcast crew already in place. I'm going to be watching that.
Yeah, I'm with you. By the way, back in 95, 96, I had a pair of those baggy Michigan shorts.
We all did.
Oh.
We all did.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I might even still have those in a box somewhere. That's how much I loved them. Like, it was awesome.
And it was, they transcended the sport. Because here were 5 dudes. They were young, obviously freshmen. They were brash. They played basketball the way that we all enjoyed watching basketball, not the old school Norman Dale type of basketball. And, it was just an absolute joy to watch. And, yeah, was there a lot of money being handed out to get those guys together? Obviously, yes.
Let's be honest, that was happening in a lot of other places. That wasn't the only place.
Did anybody care? At least our age? No, absolutely not. Now, of course, a lot of people are excited when Duke beat them, and then when North Carolina beat them, and then the Chris Webber timeout that cost his team an opportunity to win that game late. But, man, those were really fun
Absolutely.
teams.
You know what else I wouldn't mind seeing? And I don't think they're ever going to get there again, but UNLV ever gets to the Final Four, I want to see Stacey Ogman.
Grandmama.
Yes, Grandmama. Like, I want to see that altcast. Like,
Larry
give me that.
Johnson out there.
Absolutely. Like, I'm hit or miss on some of these altcasts. Like, some of them, like, they're okay. Some of them are good. The Eli Manning one, the Mannings, I enjoy theirs. But sometimes they're okay. They're not always hits. But this one, I think, will be phenomenal.
All right, so you ready for me to pitch an idea to you?
Okay.
We do when BYU plays Utah in football, we just have us and some listeners, and we just web stream everybody's live reaction.
During the game?
During the game.
I like that. I don't hate that. As long as you can keep you from doing any type of sign language.
Oh, stop it. I don't know what you're talking about.
You're one of the major offenders of sign language. A certain finger.
Okay. I promise to behave myself.
Okay.
I first off, I don't know
we've
what
talked
you're
about
talking
some stuff as we've gotten more into this realm of video. Like we've talked about doing some stuff like this. It's trying to get everybody's schedules to kind of to align
because there might be a Utah State game going on.
Exactly,
at the same time.
There could be a game going on at that same time. But if we are able to make it like where it works and we could do something like that, I think it'd be awesome to just be on air doing something like that. On the video. Just on video. Just on the video. Yeah.
Just video.
Just video.
Because we'd get in all kinds of trouble.
Yeah, you don't want that on air.
Yeah,
but
no.
on video, yes, absolutely. We have the ability to do that. So.
I would think so.
Yeah.
And invite a couple listeners to hang out with us. Get a bunch of pizza.
A couple BYU fans, a couple Utah fans, and just enjoy it how it's supposed to be enjoyed.
And let PK just annoy everybody and just kind of poke.
No throwing beer on anybody. No, none of that. There won't be any of that going on.
We're not going to be classless.
No.
I think it'd be fun. I think it's something we ought to work towards. Or maybe like a Mammoth playoff game or something.
Oh, boy, do we got some things coming up.
Oh, I know.
Oh, man. There are some things happening here
I will say
very
this.
soon.
A few weeks from now, things are going to get crazy on this station.
Yes.
Things are going to get a little crazy.
Mark it on your calendar.
What do you think? That third week in April?
Yep, third week in April, I think is what it is.
You got Misc coming to town.
That could be a wild, wild week for the station.
Yeah.
Not could be.
It will be.
It will be.
Yeah. All right. There's your good. Let's get to the bad.
Now the bad.
That's a tough one. As more details start to come out on the Tiger Woods accident, now the body cam footage is out as well. And you see him essentially being, shocked that he's being handcuffed after crashing his SUV. The officer says, I do believe your normal faculties are impaired and you're under an unknown substance. At this time, you are under arrest for DUI. Woods looks at his phone, changes the radio station, and that's why he said that he clipped off the back of a truck and rolled onto the side. So nobody was injured. But then he looks at the cop and says, am I being arrested? And the officer goes, yes, sir. And then the officer pulls him out of the vehicle, and they find 2 white pills. And Woods goes, that's a Norco, referring to a painkiller that has acetaminophen and hydrocodone. And the officers would later confirm that, in fact, he did have those. Look, painkillers are a problem. They just are. And Tiger Woods has been through it. A lot of it has been self-inflicted for one of the great, well, in my opinion, the greatest golfer to ever play the game. And look, his body's been put through hell. The back surgeries, the knee problems, the Achilles. I mean, you go down the list. There's been a lot of injuries, a lot of surgeries, and with that comes a lot of exposure to painkillers. And it just breaks your heart.
When all that stuff went down and all of a sudden you started seeing he blew a .00 and it's like, okay, there's something else. It automatically went to pain. As soon as I saw that, I had heard that he blew a .00. It's like, okay, well, there's got to be knowing his history, knowing what he's been through with his body, there's got to be some sort of painkillers that are involved with this. And it's a sad story because I can't think of how long do we think, like, is this the year that Tiger Woods is going to be back?
Oh,
every
yeah.
year we
Every
did
year.
this. Every year. I can't think of a
Every
guy
April with
that
Brian and
like,
Bob.
there has been plenty of greats that have gone through the NBA, the NFL, like Michael Jordan. Obviously, we have that conversation. He's the greatest. But there's been lots of other greats. There has been nobody, and I know he didn't catch Jack, but there hasn't been anybody that changed a game like Tiger Woods did with golf. And it was like fun to see. It was funny to root for. And there's something about him. And I know he's not necessarily the greatest person. Personally, he's got plenty of flaws.
Oh yeah,
lots of flaws.
Yeah,
but like what he did for the sport, and it's sad to see.
I mean, how many
him go through this?
How many people are out playing the game of golf simply because they grew up watching Tiger Woods?
Absolutely, he was that guy where you. Like,
he made
like
golf
I said,
cool.
It's like, oh, I want to do what Tiger Woods did on the golf course. It was just like MJ that you were used to. Remember sticking your tongue out in the air like just to make a shot or whatever. Like it was kind of like that, but it was different because nobody had done things that he has done with the sport.
Tiger Woods, 7 back surgeries, more than 20 surgeries on his right leg. He has an ankle that he told officers seizes up while he is walking. Look, I mean, when you deal with those kind of injuries and that kind of pain, it's not out of the realm of possibility at all to see him have a problem with that. And it breaks your heart. I mean, this guy, there's no doubt that he will wake up every morning for the rest of his life in pain.
We talked about the bus. Jerome Bettis, hardly able to get out of bed. Tiger Woods is very similar like that with what he's gone through his body. But you know what? The bottom line is you've got to, with how much money you have, I mean, anybody should do this anyways because it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. You got to get a driver. You have to have somebody driving you. I don't care if it makes you feel human or whatever. Like you have to have a driver. You got to pay somebody to drive you around if that's what's going to go. It just can't happen. You can't do it. This is like his fourth accident. Like you got to stop.
And one he almost lost a leg over.
And one he almost lost the leg.
Yeah.
He's got to stop, like putting other people, which is the most important thing, putting other people in danger. Like he's got to stop. You got to be smart. Get a driver. Stop driving. You can't do it.
Yeah. Look, financial issues should not be holding you back from having a driver. You should have a driver with you nonstop.
And if it is, then stay home. Just stay home.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. There's your bad. Let's get to the ugly.
And of course, the ugly.
All right, Lloyd, it is the 25-year anniversary, and this isn't really ugly. It's just a story it was ugly for one poor animal, but it's a story that we've talked about, that if there was not video on this, nobody would ever believe it. The 25-year anniversary today of the Randy Johnson pitch that took out the bird in spring training.
One of the first baseball viral moments.
And if you haven't seen it, first off, I don't know what rock you've been living under, because I remember when it happened and that thing made the rounds. Obviously, at that point in 2001, nobody's really, it was hard to be able to watch a lot of videos online, but that one still found a way to make it on your AOL email account. As 25 years ago today, Randy Johnson in spring training fires off one of his patented fastballs, and it hits I believe a pigeon, and that thing just explodes. Just absolutely explodes.
Disintegrated. Feathers everywhere.
And it said, I don't know if, do you know who was up to bat? Was it Jeff Kent?
I don't remember. I know they were playing the Giants.
Rob Barrejas says, obviously I see the ball, it's coming, and then it disappears, and there's nothing there. So, yeah, the muscle memory was like, go get that ball. But when I went to hit, nothing came to me. It was a dove, collided with the dove, which was flying from one side of the wires to the other, and instantly killing it, turning it into a puff of feathers. Nobody had ever seen it before. Nobody's ever seen it since. And everybody thought that because it was April 2nd, it was a late April Fool's Day joke, that somebody had it like a goofball that somehow exploded mid-pitch.
I'm just watching it again on social right now, and you just see him throw, and that thing just going across and explodes. Wow. That's just, you I don't think you're not going to see something like that.
No,
it just won't happen.
You could try to do that a million times and never do it. Craziest thing I think any of us has ever seen in sports.
I remember when that happened, and did you see? Because that was obviously we're big watching Sports Center and all that stuff, at that time. And oh my God, Randy Johnson exploded a bird. It's like, wait, what? We go watch the highlight on Sports Center, and sure enough.
Guess who was the first to pick up the carcass of the bird? Jeff Kent. So Jeff Kent goes over there, picks up the bird, or at least what's left of it, looks over at Randy Johnson's like, hey, man, you did this. And he looked at me, and he was wanting to tear me apart. I could see it in his eyes. There was no smile. He had his game face on, and he didn't react one bit. And I thought, hey, man, this is funny. I just showed it, but it showed how much of a competitor he was. He's trying to stay grounded.
There is nobody colder
to stay dialed
than Randy
in.
Johnson.
And Randy's out there with his game face on, this according to Jeff Kent, and he didn't give a bleep whether he hit a bird or not. And I'm laughing. I'm going like, this is a crazy moment. I know a bird's dead, but I said, you can't replicate this. You'll win the lottery before you could ever do this again. And Randy Johnson just stares at me with that cold look on his face and says, can we keep going?
Get in the box. Let's go. Sure, he told Barrejas, get in the box. Get back in the batter's box. Let's go.
So Jeff Kent went. And he took the dead bird, and he threw it in the trash in the dugout.
Yeah, if I would have been Jeff, I wouldn't be like, no, you come get your own dead bird. I'm not picking this up. I'm not picking up this carcass. That's you. You did this, Randy.
All right. If somebody was able to stuff that bird, how much would that thing be worth? Oh, it'd be worth a lot. It'd be worth a lot.
And I'm sure somebody is kicking themselves for not doing that.
If somebody went in the trash, took out the bird, reassembled it in some way, stuffed it.
No disassemble.
No. You'd have Darren Ravel and all these nerds just bidding up a storm for that thing.
Yes, Darren Ravel would have bought it.
I'm surprised people aren't trying to get feathers with letters of authenticity that they got from the field. Like, yes, this was part of the dove.
Scotty,
that was
I never
up.
even thought of doing something like that. And I'm sure you would have sold that thing for a pretty penny.
Oh, yeah. Oh, hey, here we go. Jeff Kent considered getting the bird taxidermized with a baseball lodged in its chest and asking Johnson to sign it. But the idea was fleeting. He still, though, has a feather or a photo of him holding up the bird. He should have done that. You imagine?
Absolutely should have.
Okay, so you've got, if you were able to get the ball that was used, you were able to stuff the bird, have the ball lodged into the chest of the bird, and Randy Johnson signing it, that would be easily worth $5-6 million. And if I had that kind of money, if money wasn't an issue, I never would spend money on any of this nonsense. Cards, memorabilia.
That'd be up there with you?
I would buy that. If money wasn't an issue, I would absolutely buy that.
Hanging from somebody, I'm not a big hunter at all, in fact. But having that hang from some sort of tree or something in your den?
Yeah. Awesome. All right. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. David James joining us 15 minutes from right now here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.
Believe it or not, this guy actually has friends.
Nice.
This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You've got Cody Campbell in at Texas Tech who's essentially running that program. And look, like it or not, if you're an athletic director at a major college program and you've got a big-time booster that's really funding the program and going out of his way to raise money for your university, he's going to have a lot to say about how your university does its business. But then when it bleeds over into how the conference does its business, then you get yourself into a little bit of trouble. And Cody Campbell at Texas Tech now is getting into a little, let's just say, I'm trying to think of the right word that I can say on the radio. I wasn't going to say that, Lloyd. But yeah, no, there's a little bit of a back and forth between he and Brett Yormark. So there's a game coming up on the Texas Tech schedule, October 18th. Texas Tech will be playing Houston, and that game has now been scheduled on Friday, October 18th. Now, look, I don't live in Texas. I've been there a few times. Lloyd, you haven't lived in Texas as far as I know. But we know that high school football here in Utah is a big thing. Doesn't hold a candle to what goes on in Texas. So Cody Campbell fires off a tweet and says, Friday night lights are sacred in the great state of Texas. It is absolutely absurd that the Big 12 Conference and Fox Sports would consider scheduling Texas Tech and Houston on a Friday night. I know that Brett Yormark, and he tags him on Twitter, at Brett Yormark, is not a native Texan, but he's been here long enough to know better. Come on, man. So the Lubbock Avalanche Journal reaches out to Brett Yormark, who simply says, Cody Campbell does not run the Big 12. So, yeah, that doesn't go well with, that didn't sit well with with Cody Campbell, who then fires back. Apparently, Brett didn't get the memo. Everything runs through Lubbock. Maybe we should bring the tortillas back. As a commissioner, he needs to remember he works for the presidents, and the presidents work for the board, in which, by the way, he's the chairman of the board for the Texas Tech. So essentially, he's saying Brett Yormark works for him. He is not the dictator of the conference. That's not his role. It is his responsibility to advocate for his members in all cases. Friday night Big 12 football games are ridiculous here in the state of Texas. He knows that. He doesn't care. He's not advocating for us. Yormark could have gone to bat for us, and he didn't because he wants the ratings. He doesn't care about what's going on in the state of Texas.
Okay, yes, he does want the ratings. I don't hate him speaking up, by the way.
I don't either.
I actually absolutely love it because there's a game that we love dearly that seems like it gets placed in weird places.
Yes.
The Utah-BYU rivalry. I don't think we've agreed at since they've joined the Big 12 where they've placed it.
No,
they haven't done a good job of highlighting it and probably getting the ratings they probably could get.
It's your best rivalry in the Big 12 right now.
Absolutely. And it was as soon as they joined.
Yep.
As soon as they joined, it automatically became the best rivalry in the conference.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're doing a good enough job highlighting that. So I would love to hear Mark Harlan or Brian Santiago speak up about, voice their opinion on something like this because I think it could be in a better place.
I agree. And I think one thing I like about Brian Santiago, the dude's not afraid to mix it up. And I think that Brian's been really there was that he had a reputation out there of being, the tough guy. Tom Homo was the good cop and he was the bad cop. I'm not saying that's true. That was just the general perception that was the case. So I think he's gone out of his way to say, look, I'm a man of the people. Well, you know what? It's okay to be a bully sometimes. It's okay to be a guy that voices your opinion. And look, I'm not saying Brian Santiago and Mark Harlan want it to be the last game of the season. But if they did, then by all means, it's time to I think if you're BYU, you've been the good soldier long enough.
And by the way, I think you will see that. When they joined, BYU is just happy to be
absolutely.
In the conference. I mean, you look at their social handles on X, the bios, it says proud members of the Big 12. You don't see that in Utah's because they already were in the Pac-12. And honestly, I think they looked at it as a step down when they came over to the Big 12.
Did.
So they weren't all that big. But BYU, in their bios, it says proud members of the Big 12. They are highlighting it, and they're all about being a good member. But as you start to see where if they keep doing what they're doing right now and being the top dog in the conference, well, that's when you're able to start
flexing
a little bit.
Yeah, and frankly, I think BYU should flex more because BYU has, look, Texas Tech has been great in football, but if you look at who's been the most consistent in football and basketball over this last stretch, BYU's near the top of that list. And I think BYU had their way when they were in the WAC. They had their way in the Mountain West. They ran their own ship when they were independent, and they've been subservient for quite some time here in the Big 12. Just been like, hey, we're just glad we're here. We're happy to be a part of the party. We want to be good friends. Okay, we understand you're yelling, bleep you Mormons, but let's turn the other cheek. You know what? It's time for BYU to flex a bit. So you're like, no. We sell out our stadium every week. We're bringing in ratings. We're competing in football and basketball. We're bringing in the best recruits in the country for our basketball team. We want this. And I don't know what they want, but if there's something they want and they're passionate about, I think it's time for BYU to absolutely flex. Utah has.
If they're not happy about playing on a certain a game being at a certain day and time or whatever, I think they should absolutely voice it.
Let's do it. All right, 2 o'clock straight up, final hour of the program. The great David James joins us next right here on The Zone.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did you have to fight a dragon?
Nope. She bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.